Welcome back to the Freedom Frontier channel. I hope everyone had a fun and happy time over the holidays. It's 2026 now, and I'd say for my New Year's resolution or goal would be to get this channel to 10,000 subscribers. We have a lot of stuff planned this year, a lot of work that needs to be done on my off-grid property. So if you're brand new to the channel, if you've been watching for a while now, would appreciate it if you'd subscribe. Don't want you to miss out on any future content. I'm here in a spare room of the apartment that I'm staying in over the winter because my off-grid property isn't quite ready to live on yet. Hopefully that changes in 2026. Like I said, we've got a lot of work to do, but hopefully by next winter, we'll be able to stay nice and warm in a dry cabin, even when it's 10 below. I'm sitting on 60 kilowatt hours of lithium iron phosphate battery cells, and today I'm going to be assembling them into these 4 do-it-yourself kits. All of these batteries were delivered a couple months ago, just before we winterized my off-grid property. And you can watch that video up here in the top right corner. And as you can see, I haven't opened a single one of these boxes yet, but I've got my tools, so let's get started. There we go, first cell out of the box. Each one of these cells is 1 kilowatt hour. All right, that's 1/4 of the batteries unpackaged. We have 16 cells here. 16 cells go into one do-it-yourself kit. And these are really not dangerous to handle. The voltage between the terminals is only 3.2 volts. So with 16 cells per kit, that adds up to 16 kilowatt hours per box. So actually that's a total of 64 kilowatt hours, not 60. So I'm gonna take a quick break, get all this garbage thrown away, and we'll come back and we'll unpack the rest of these 24 boxes and just stack all the battery cells in that corner. That'll make enough space here so we have a work area to get all these do-it-yourself kits out and start reading the manual. So the reason why I went with such a large battery system is after spending about half a year living in that travel trailer. Oh, that's not good. I just unpacked this one and it has kind of a dent on it on the corner. And there's also like a sloshing noise. I wonder if they're all like that. Okay, they all seem to have some kind of liquid inside of them. So my guess is this one that just has a dent. It's not really that severe, so I'm sure it's fine. Besides that one, all of the batteries have been in really excellent condition. So I'm not too worried about a small ding on the corner. These things are designed to be pretty robust. And the reason why I went with such a large battery system is having lived in that travel trailer with a 3 kilowatt hour battery under the master bed, I realized that I just didn't want to have to deal with any kind of, I guess for electric vehicles you'd call it range anxiety. But in the case of a home battery system, I don't even know what you'd call it, but I just didn't want to deal with ever really running out of battery power, and a 64 kilowatt system. A 64 kilowatt system can basically run a full-size house for multiple days. This system will start off by just powering a small dry cabin and a small like utility shed with some like an instant water heater and like a wash machine and just some small electronics. But down the road, the plan is to build like a full-size full-size house on the property. I wanted to future-proof this whole system. And originally I was gonna go with a 15 kilowatt hour system, but I came across this do-it-yourself kit. For the price of one of these 15 kilowatt hour systems, I was able to buy this entire set for just a little bit more. So I think in the end I ended up paying like $8,000 or $9,000 for the whole battery system. But of course that's including Alaska shipping, which is just, it's basically whatever you pay for the product. If you pay like $4 or $5 grand, you're gonna basically pay the same amount in shipping. So like 4 becomes 8. So yeah, it costs a lot of money to ship to Alaska. So even if I bought the 15 kilowatt hour system, which was gonna be like maybe $3,000, I think, just for a 15 kilowatt battery, I was gonna end up paying thousands of dollars in shipping anyway. So I just decided to order these directly from China because China makes all the lithium iron phosphate batteries. And I got a great deal on them. They basically sell them for like $80 a kilowatt hour or something like that, like $90 a kilowatt hour, which is like some of the best prices that you can get for commercially available batteries. And it definitely helps to just buy the raw battery cells instead of a pre-assembled system. And I figured, oh, I've got time this winter to work on this, so might as well save a little bit of money, get a better system, one that can store pretty much triple or quadruple the amount of battery juice. And another thing is, if I was ever going to have power on this property, it's pretty much either set up an off-grid solar power system or pay thousands of dollars, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars, and you pay that to the power company to bring in power poles, because the property that I have does not have access to the electric grid. And what's the fun in just hooking up to the power grid when you got an off-grid property? Like, that defeats the purpose. So it was either pay thousands of dollars per utility pole to have them go through the forest with all these poles. Like, it just wouldn't make any sense economically. So ironically, the most economical decision would be to build this expensive off-grid electric system. So I think all in all, with all the solar panels and all the battery systems and the inverter and all the wiring, it's probably going to come out to around $20,000 to $25,000 for the entire system. But of course, you know, if you want to build your own system, you could go cheaper. If you maybe want to do a grid-tied system, you don't really have to have as many batteries. It's kind of up to you how you want to prioritize. You know, maybe you want to buy more solar panels so you can backfeed to the grid if you want to do, you know, if you want to be grid connected. Or you can just go all out on batteries and go full off grid, not be hooked up to anyone, not have to pay a single bill. In my opinion, that's the most enjoyable thing to do, you know, not have to. That's kind of the whole point of this exercise, is to go off grid, have maximum security in yourself and your property. That's what I decided to do, and so far it's working out. And I appreciate everyone who's tagging along for the fun. I've also seen a couple people ask in the comments, you know, how are you paying for all this? You know, it's called a job. And that's how most people pay for things, right? I wasn't given this money, I didn't inherit it. I went to university for software engineering, and then I worked my butt off for 5 or so years after that. Saved up as much as I could, was extremely frugal. The original idea was just to buy a house, but with the housing prices, they just go up and up and up, and the price of housing has literally grown faster than my ability to save up. So I eventually just thought, screw it, and decided instead to move up here to Alaska, purchase a piece of land for only $25,000, and just start building on it. Because I really did not want to take out a life loan. Now you're hearing about 50-year mortgages. Like, what are people thinking? It's crazy. All these people taking out life loans are basically slaves to the financial system. So I said, no thank you. So immediately we got a little assembly instructions packet. I think I'm gonna go read up on that, make sure I understand how to put this thing together. Let's pull off this foam packaging. So yeah, the box has these handles on the side so that you can transport it. So when this box is empty, it's maybe only 40 pounds, but I'm pretty sure that once this is full of all 16 cells, it's close to 200 pounds. So I'm a little bit worried how I'm going to move this once it's all full of cells. For now, I'm going to read that instruction manual, figure out how this thing goes together. Looks like I'm going to need some Phillips head screwdrivers to take this off. And then we can have a look inside. So I just finished reading this assembly instruction pamphlet. We need a torque wrench with a range from 4 to 6 Newton meters. Thankfully, I've got one here that has that range. It's on the low end. And I also have a Phillips head screwdriver with a nice rubber grip. So step one is to disassemble this lid. All right, now with all the screws out, we should be able to just lift this piece of steel here. I'm just gonna lean it up against the wall. All right, let's take a closer look here. Over here, packaged on this side. So we've got some foam spacers, and then we also have some yellow plastic casing material. So we have 2 on this end, and then we have 2 over here on this end. Just pops right out, nothing's connected. So I needed to take that off in order to get these 2 boxes out. This is the smaller of the 2 boxes. And what looks to be an LCD screen. Yep, so it's in an anti-static bag. And it has some 3M adhesive tape. Based on what I read in the assembly instructions, this LCD screen goes on the front of the box. It goes right here. And then we have this slightly larger box. We have a whole bunch of miscellaneous bolts. We've got a short Ethernet cable for communications. I have a whole bunch of screws for all the battery terminals. And we have a whole bunch of nice flexible bus bars. And these are the special kind that can actually flex. So these are good quality bus bars here. So if there's any kind of thermal expansion or contraction, these can tolerate some amount of that. So we will take this side off as well. And that is the second harness. And thankfully these harnesses are labeled. This is harness B, which goes on the left side of the box. And then we have harness A right here, which goes on the right side of the box. And this is all documented in the assembly instructions pamphlet. They have a nice diagram of all the battery cells and what orientation they need to be in, how you connect up all the orange bus bars together, what order to do it in to minimize the chance of electrical shock. You want to do the short bus bars first. Once you have both sides connected, then you connect them all at once. Because the more you connect in series, the higher the voltage, the more dangerous it is. So step one is to get these packages out, get this yellow plastic spacer things, and mount them to the sides of the metal here to act as a barrier between the batteries and the metal of the box. These two pieces that do not have any adhesive just sit at the very bottom. They don't need any adhesive to stay there. Start by just peeling these white adhesive strips off, just like that. Just gonna line it up and apply some pressure where it meets. There's metal bars in the middle, and it lines up perfectly with the adhesive. You can see here where the adhesive makes contact with the metal. It kind of shows through the plastic. So just by applying pressure to those spots to make sure there's a good adhesion, that's what I'm doing. So I'm looking at where this is lining up with the metal. I'm actually going to flip this around so that the adhesive lines up better with the, there we go, that's much better. It's dead center on the piece of metal here. That's exactly what we want. These 4 yellow plastic sheets will just go on the ends to insulate the metal there. The next step is to verify all of the cell voltages. So all of the cells that we're going to be putting in here, it says they all need to be within 50 millivolts of each other. All right, so I have this thing set to DC voltage. Each one of these cells should read 3.2 volts. 3.247, 3.245 volts. It's literally identical to that other cell. And let's do the next one. So we got 3.247 volts. They're not even anywhere close to the 50 millivolt tolerance, so this is looking very nice. Yeah, once again, 3.247 volts. They're all within like 1 or 2 millivolts of each other. 3.245, 3.245, 3.245, 3.245, 3.247, 3.247, 3.247, 3.247. These two right here are enough to go into this box. So for now, I'm going to put the multimeter away and we can continue assembling this do-it-yourself kit. Next step is to apply these EVA cushioning pads to the contact surfaces of the cells. Now I already counted these. There's 18 of them, which makes sense because we have 2 rows and 8 cells are going into each row, which means you need 9 pads because you got all the pads between the cells and then you also have 1 on each end. Got our, these are actually pretty heavy. They're maybe 15 pounds, I would say. Yeah, it's like a dumbbell, like a small dumbbell, medium-sized dumbbell. It's like 15 to 20 pounds each, so pretty heavy. It's a very dense block of lithium and iron. It's just a big hunk of metal. It's very important to look at the diagram. Make sure that these batteries are oriented correctly. Thankfully, each one of these cells is marked whether it's the positive terminal or the negative terminal. So I just have to reference this sheet. For this back right corner over here, the negative terminal needs to be in the corner. So the first thing that I'm going to do is going to take this sticky pad, affix it to there, and then install the very first battery cell into the corner here. Going to make sure this plastic sheet is up. I'll slide the first battery in. Make sure it's nice and snug against the back, which it is. So the next thing to do, grab the next cell and basically just alternate these. So since positive was on the left side here, negative was on the right, we're going to flip the cell around this time so that negative is on the left, positive is on the right. And that corresponds correctly with this diagram. Pretty obvious, you know, you got to have, just like any other battery, you connect the positive to the negative on the other side so all the electricity flows in the right direction. Centered top to bottom, side to side. Push down on it, make sure it's nice and adhered. And there we go. Gonna slide the next cell in. So I'm going to just keep doing this pattern, just keep alternating the polarity of the battery back and forth from right to left. And we'll see how fast we can get all these batteries in here. All 16 battery cells are now installed. Next step is to attach all of the bus bars together. So we're going to be using these orange bus bars. There's a whole bunch of short ones and then one long one here. You know, it doesn't actually mention anything about putting these on, but I'm pretty confident that these go like here. I'm going to peel this off. Very nice piece of foam here. So now there'll be a barrier between the cells and this piece of metal. And then we have harness B. There we go. I'm pretty sure that all of these cables sticking out do not pose any kind of risk of short-circuiting anything, because these metal things, they don't connect to anything. They're not connected to each other. They all go down to this this connector port here. So each pin of this connector goes to one of these leads. And this harness's primary purpose is voltage detection. So it has a lead that goes to each battery so it can independently determine the battery voltage. So it's a very, very important piece of hardware to make sure that all of the cells are being balanced correctly. You can do this very carefully. Make sure that I'm putting this on the right side. This B harness does go on the left side of the box. Carefully. I'm going to tighten this down snug. Finished reinstalling the harnesses over the top of all the battery cells. So the battery cells should be kind of held in place now with a little bit of pressure. So they shouldn't really slide around too much. Take off this shrink wrap that they've put around everything. A whole bunch of these bus bars. And then we have the mega bus bar. This is the bus bar that connects both of the rows together. This is where it gets a little bit scary, because as you connect these cells together, the voltage increases. Every time you connect two cells together, you double the voltage. Eventually this whole system will get up to be over 50 volts. So we're gonna start off in this corner and basically just alternate, go connect to these, connect to these, connect to these, connect, and just keep alternating up the side of the battery pack. And I think while I'm doing this, I'm going to be attaching the voltage sensors with it. Put the screw through this first terminal. Okay. We need 2 screws that go onto each terminal. And I'm not going to tighten these ahead of time. I'm just going to kind of hand tighten them. And then we just do the next one. So then we take this, and I'm going to put the bus bar here so you can see we just keep alternating. Go one side there, then we connect these, then we connect these. We just keep, you know, doing like a zigzag pattern up the battery cells, and that puts them all in series. So next one, we put this bolt through this voltage sensor, kind of bend it around. So I'm going to just be showing the assembly of one of these batteries on camera. I'm not going to do all 4, that would just take forever. I might do a follow-up video after I've got everything, all 4 batteries assembled. I do need to make some measurements. Once these batteries are assembled, you can actually stack them on top of each other. And I need to measure the distance from terminal to terminal because I need to order some copper cables. I'm going to go with 4/0 cables. So I need wiring to connect the batteries together, and then I need a longer run of cable to go to the inverter. Just want to make sure I get enough cable for when we eventually install this whole system into the future utility shed on my property. Now I'm going to start doing this other row. So according to this, it's completely mirrored. So we're going to start this one over on this side and then zigzag pattern up the battery. All right, so we got all the batteries connected except for actually jumping between the 2 rows of cells. We also have to connect the actual battery management system using this and this. Still have to connect these voltage sensing cables to their appropriate harnesses. We have all the voltage sensing cables attached to the terminals. We have all the bus bars installed in the correct position. All the bolts are not tightened down yet. We still have to use our torque wrench here at 6 Newton meters. But I think before that step, they actually want you to connect up the battery management system. Yeah, they want you to connect everything up before you tighten everything down. Technically, this is completing the circuit here. We're gonna have a whole entire battery management or a whole entire battery array at 52 volts. And I have the main breaker in the off position. There's a big 200 amp breaker. It is in the down position. Kind of push this into a better position and then tighten this, just kind of snug it up so it holds. It gave me 1 extra screw. This black cable right here around to here just pops, yep, makes a nice click sound. This should just make a nice click sound like the other one. Not as satisfying. fine as a click, but oh, it did make a click. I just had to push it down a little bit more. So all the connections look good. We still have a couple cables hanging out, but I believe that's for the digital LCD screen. So the final thing to do would be to torque everything down. We're gonna set it to 6 Newton meters. We're on the Newton meter scale, not the foot-pounds or inch-pounds. So the torque wrench is set. Got our 10mm bit attachment. There we go. Works like a charm. Shit. It fried the, thankfully I didn't get shocked. That was scary. Whoa. I'm gonna take a little break here. Damn, that was crazy. Okay, I'm gonna take a little break. Probably just figure out how I'm gonna do this a lot more safe, in like a much more safe manner. All right, gonna take a little intermission here, so I'll be back. All right, so I went and had some dinner, had some time to think about what went wrong. It's kind of like a post-mortem, except I didn't die, but maybe these screws here did. One of the first mistakes that I made when I was using this torque wrench, the bit that I was using was very close to the wrench, forcing me to be extremely close to all these terminals. So I think going forward, I'm gonna be using a long extension. And additionally, I've moved to this side of the box. I realized it was a really dumb decision to be using the torque wrench from that side of the box, working on the lugs on this side. Because the whole reason why it arced was because I crossed from one side of the battery to the other. That's the only way that arcs can happen. You touch the positive to the negative, create a huge amount of current, and I don't think I really had a chance of being electrocuted because this is made out of metal and electricity follows the easiest path. It's not like I was touching both ends of the battery with my hand to allow the electricity to go through my body. And the third thing that could have prevented this is if I had just not connected the two sides of the battery together using the main bus bar. The screw that I touched with the torque wrench that made this big mess on the end here, this bolt is completely ruined, so I'm gonna have to pull that out with some pliers. There's no way I can use a wrench because the bolt is just a giant puddle of metal. So I'm gonna try to use pliers. I hadn't tightened these bolts down yet, so I should be able to get it out with some pliers. I did inspect the battery management system. There's a PCB circuit board down here, and I rewatched the footage of when the whole thing went down, and I saw a couple pieces of molten metal fall down there, but I couldn't locate them. And I checked all the wires. It didn't look like anything got melted that is critical. Like I couldn't find anywhere where the molten metal landed. So I'm gonna just hope that nothing down there has been damaged. The board is pretty well protected. It has a whole bunch of plating around it. I think if anything did fall down there, it went all the way down to the bottom of the chassis on the metal, so I don't think it damaged anything. Step one is to get this bolt out. Thankfully, they sent me, they include one extra bolt in the kit. I should be able to replace this one that was damaged. The bolt that I was originally tightening right here, it is also damaged, but it looks like it's still usable. I'm gonna get some pliers, see if I can remove that bolt. I rewatched that short circuit a couple times. It's pretty scary when you're dealing with this amount of electricity. Each one of these battery cells is a 315 amp cell. And once you add them all up in series, 50 volts. If you do the math, it's like 15 kilowatts. quite a bit of juice going through this battery. Okay. Thankfully, this bolt was not tightened down at all. So it looks like I'm going to be able to slowly rotate it out. You can see that bolt. It got the head of the bolt's totally melted. Phillips head screw was just completely unusable. But thankfully, I've got another one. Screw this right back in. Let's hope this goes a lot smoother without any short circuits. There we go. So that's 6 Newton meters, and there's still a gap so I can access the other bolt. I think this is going a lot better than the first time. All right, no sparks. All right, so the final piece of the puzzle is the screen installation. It says to peel off the 3M adhesive backing and affix the screen to the designated position on the front panel, right here. Connect the screen wiring harness to the corresponding plug. The only remaining cables are this one and this one. Now, I'm not really sure what this red one is for. It's time to pull out the LCD screen. So the cable just connects into here. There's a clearly dedicated port that's the same size, so it just plugs in there. Down through here. One half of it, and then the other half. Come on, don't. There we go. Just like that. You gotta just apply some pressure here so that it adheres to the metal. Now I still don't know what this wire goes to. I'm a little bit worried. There's literally nothing in here that says what it is. Maybe it's the fire suppression system. All right, I did some research. I looked up the battery management system. It's a JK version 19 battery management system. And I traced this red wire down into the bottom right corner of the BMS. And that turns out to be a battery positive cable. So I should just be able to connect this cable to the positive terminal of the entire battery array. And that kind of corresponds with the diagram. I wasn't totally sure if the diagram was accurate. It was a very small image, so I just wanted to double check. So all I should have to do is pull up this bolt and connect this wire to the positive of the battery. There we go. 6 Newton meters. That should complete the installation of this battery system. Just like that. Final screw. Now we're going to do one round just to snug everything up. All right. It's It's a very loud breaker. Ooh. So we got settings here. You can set up the communication protocols. I believe there is a phone app for this, so I'll probably need to figure out how to do that. Obviously, this is a brand new battery, so it has no idea how full the battery is. It's not exactly reliable to determine a lithium iron phosphate battery state of charge just by looking at its voltages. You basically have to fully charge the battery up until it won't accept any more energy, and then you know it's full, and then you basically just have to tell the battery how much energy is in the battery, and then it can basically keep track of how much energy goes in and out of the battery so that it can basically keep track of how much power you have in your battery. So this concludes the assembly of the 16 kilowatt hour do-it-yourself box kit from Yixiang Power. Overall, the instructions could have been a little bit easier, but for a Chinese company, I guess it's reasonable. But now I'm gonna just basically repeat those steps 3 more times, get all these battery cells put into boxes. The plan for these is actually to stack them, have them 4 high, but I don't really see any way to, there's latches here on the side that you can use to lock them in place, but I'm pretty sure there's also meant to be pegs here in these holes to keep everything aligned. And I don't really think I received anything like that kind of hardware that would be required to stack these things. I don't know, we'll see. But so far this pretty exciting. It's a necessary step to get power to my off-grid property. So thanks everyone for watching. Hope you guys have a good day. Bye-bye.